How are you? My name is Alice Munyua, and I am a nurse practitioner. And this week we're going to talk about schizoaffective disorder. In the past, we've talked about bipolar, we've talked about schizophrenia, and when we discuss schizoaffective disorder, this is two diseases that are combined into one. So when you see a diagnosis of schizoaffective disorder, schizo means a broken mind, if you remember when we discussed schizophrenia, or a shattered mind. But the affective part, that has to do with mood. You know, your facial affect, that's what that's all about. So when you see somebody with a diagnosis of schizoaffective disorder, that means they have schizophrenia and they also have bipolar. And the combination of those two diseases becomes schizoaffective disorder. So what are some of the symptoms that we see with this disease? Hallucinations, delusions, and mood disturbance. So sometimes you might see this person already has schizophrenia, but on top of it, they either have mania or you might see them with depression, and it keeps alternating. Remember when we talked about bipolar, we talked about the two poles. When people, their mood keeps swinging between the two poles. 1 minute they're high, next week they're low. So the highs and lows. And on top of it, you also have schizophrenia. So it's a very, very complicated disease. And we talked about schizophrenia, and I don't know if you remember what we talked about. That is caused, how does a human being get a broken mind or a shattered mind? Usually it's because of trauma, repeated trauma, severe trauma. And trauma can be either physical, it can be emotional, but it has to be severe and it has to be for an extended period of time. And it can also be spiritual. Some of the spiritual practices that people do can actually cause schizophrenia. You can end up with a broken mind, especially when you do these practices without a guru or without a spiritual master, a spiritual guide. You know, somebody who can tell you where to tone things off, or when you start getting into trouble, where they can tell you to back things back up, you know, so you don't end up in trouble. But now, so when I talk about spiritual infection, I think I mentioned that in bipolar. And I said that bipolar, some people think that they have bipolar when you know, they go, like creative people. 1 week, or they're working on a project and they have all this energy, they're happy, they're working hard, they're not sleeping much. And then they finish the project and all of a sudden they sleep for 2 days. That's not bipolar. That comes because you're not managing your thoughts properly, I would say, or you're not balancing your work and your leisure schedule so you can at least sleep when you need to sleep. Because most people who are creative, when they get stuck on an idea, they absolutely don't want to go to sleep. Because they think, you know, when you stop the flow of thoughts, they're going to lose the idea, and then they won't complete whatever project they were working on. Could it be music? Could it be writing? Could it be painting a picture? You know, those kind of things. That's not bipolar. Because as long as you can sleep, you are fine. But now, when you have trouble sleeping, that's when it becomes a problem. And most people don't realize that if they have trouble sleeping, they're either thinking too much. So you're either thinking worrisome thoughts, and thoughts are spiritual in origin, or you're dealing with a spirit, something that's preventing you from sleeping. And with most bipolar people, they end up having nightmares when they go to sleep, or night terrors, and that's where you actually are dealing with a spirit. Because sleep, the Most High gives us sleep. And he says he will always give his beloved sleep. So when you're dealing with sleeping issues, you're having night terrors, you're having nightmares, that means you're under attack. And that can be stopped if you knew how to deal with it. It requires spiritual counseling to know where the enemy has an edge on you, where there is an open door, so that door can be closed. And then you'll be able to sleep. Thank you. I hope you learned something today.